Okay. I just wanted to ask you a quick question,
Okay.
which I've now completely forgotten. So I'm just going to let you, I'm going to let you talk. I read your, the deck, and
Yeah.
I'm just going to listen, and then I'll ask you questions.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, we'll jump into that. But what I thought I would do is just kind of tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll jump right into this, to a few of the slides. We won't go through the whole thing, but
Perfect.
we'll cover a majority of it. So I'm originally from Ohio. I was born and raised there, home to 5 kids. I did my high school there, my undergrad, grad school. Met my wife there, all in Ohio. And about 15 years ago, we moved to Evanston. So my wife moved here first. So she attended Northwestern. So she was in grad school there, and actually was living in Dallas, Texas, for a year before joining her in Evanston. So I finally moved to Evanston, and then I was working up at SC Johnson. And I was there for 12 years. And my real job is I'm a finance manager for mostly CPG companies. So I was there, and then within the last 10 years or so, we had 2 kids. So we have my daughter will be attending Walker, and she's in the 4th grade. And then my son, who's 5 years old, will be starting kindergarten at Walker.
And did you say I didn't hear what you said you did. You work where?
So I was working at SC Johnson when I first moved here.
Got it.
Yeah, and now I work for Reynolds Consumer Products. So they make a little bit of foil and hefty trash bags are kind of the 2 major products that we sell. We sell other stuff too. But
and what did you say your title is? You're a finance...
Yep, finance manager.
Finance what?
Manager.
Oh, manager. Okay, okay, good. Sorry, I could not hear that. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. No problem. And so that's what I do full time. I got wrapped up in this thing about a year and a half ago now, where there's a gentleman that stood up at a school board meeting and said, "Hey, while you guys are pursuing TWE, we think this is a missed opportunity to bring a school to the 5th Ward. We've been wanting a school for a long time." So that was Bobby Burns, and I was like, what is he talking about?
Right.
So I went back. I heard about this referendum. So I did a bunch of research to understand more about, this referendum, why it failed, understanding a little bit more about the situation. And so I felt like there was an injustice going on, and I felt like, something needed to be done, and we need to think differently in order to, solve the problem. And so I just kind of put on my strategic thinking hat, just that's just what I do at work. And so I just was like, okay, we got to figure this out. So let me just jump right into the situation. So on the deck on page 6, so this is a presentation that we typically take folks through to help them understand the vision that we're thinking about, as far as the 5th Ward school.
Right.
So we start off with the situation. So in the top left-hand corner, 1905, Foster, opened its doors. It was a predominantly 100% white school. And then through the 70s, through redlining and a bunch of other practices, the 5th Ward became mostly black. And Foster was, 90% black at that time. Evanston tried to be proactive and help integrate the school, so they shut down Foster. And then they shipped out basically all the kids that were going to Foster to 4 different schools.
Right.
At the time, it was actually 6 schools. I learned later. There were 6 schools back then. But they shut down the school in 1967. They later opened up King Arts Lab, and that was in the Foster building. But it was a magnet school, but it really wasn't for the 5th Ward residents. Right. So most of the attendees lived outside the 5th Ward. They were being bused into the 5th Ward. I think that they were saying like 10% of the attendees were 5th Ward residents. So it really wasn't for 5th Ward residents. They later moved King Arts Lab to where it is today.
Right.
So then we also talk about, acknowledging that District 65 has done a lot. I mean, over the span of 50 years. So they've, done enrichment programming. They've had diversity training. They've had diverse staff. They've focused on preschool, early childhood, and they've worked on improving the curriculum. Despite all those activities, the problems still linger, right? So kids are still bused across the district. There's still this achievement gap, and the community's integrity is taking a hit. So this community integrity has been cited. There was a study done that I forgot it was called the Evanston Human Relations Commission. They did a study and said, hey, when you let the school leave the community, it impacted our community integrity.
What do you mean by community integrity?
So it's this pride, kind of this feeling of pride of living in your community. It's kind of a self-esteem. That's what I would call it.
So you're directing community integrity to the black community. You mean black community integrity?
Yes.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, go on.
So you need to fix this inequity. Yeah, no problem. So you got to fix the inequity. So slide number 8. So this is kind of our vision statement that we use to communicate, but I'm not going to read it word for word, but really a couple of things to highlight. One is we want to focus on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. However, we'll still, focus on other subject matters, but we really want to spend a little bit more time on STEM versus spending it on, fill in the blank, foreign language or whatever.
Okay.
And then we also want to ensure high family involvement. So we think that's the key for success in having the school be in the community. Jumping to page 10. So page 10, this is kind of, all the reasons why a school. A lot of people say, well, why don't you do after school programming? Or, why don't you, do, better curriculum or whatever? And it's like, yes, all those things are great, but it doesn't solve the problem that having a school will do. So it'll, one, reverse the inequity. So the District 65 has done in their equity report, has cited and said that the busing situation disproportionately impacts black and brown kids.
Right.
In addition to that, District 65 has sponsored a study, an independent study, that said the reasonable way to fix this busing inequity or the disproportionate busing situation is to open a school in the 5th Ward. So that's been acknowledged. It's in writing. There's evidence for that.
Right.
Other reasons why you want a school: make it easier for parents to participate, help with parents building networks. I don't know if you know this, but on some streets in the 5th Ward, kids can go to 4 different schools, and you could live on the same block.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. So that exists. So it's fragmenting the community. It's breaking it up, and it's making it difficult to come together and provide cohesion. And we want a school that's within safe walking distance.
Got it.
So these are all the things that a school can do that after-school programming can't do. Fixing the diversity of the teachers, blah, blah, blah. Jumping to page 11, why STEM? So one of the reasons why we chose STEM is, I'll talk high level. We wanted to make the school attractive for folks that lived outside the 5th Ward. The 5th Ward, what we're starting to see is that they care more about a school in their neighborhood, physically in their neighborhood, and less about, whether or not it focuses on STEM or STEAM or whatever. What we're trying to do is attract those families and those parents that live outside the 5th Ward. So when the referendum, when they did the referendum, 67% of the voters said yes to a school in the 5th Ward.
How many? What
it won in the 67%.
67. Okay.
Yeah, so almost 70%. It also won in the 2nd Ward, and it also won in the 8th Ward. And if you look at the demographic map of Evanston, and you'll see where the Black and Latinx families live, they live in those areas.
Right, second.
So it won. Yeah, so the representation of Latinx and Blacks is low in the 6th and 7th Wards, where there's very little people of color representation, and the voter turnout is much higher because they have older voters, senior citizens. Those, that demographic typically comes out, in droves for any election. Right. I mean, it's just the voter turnout are much higher for that group, and so that's where it got killed. So now we're saying, hey, go ahead.
Sorry. So the 6th and 7th, I was going to ask you this later because I know a lot about all this history, which I'm glad you're telling me about, but I wasn't 100% sure. So 67% voted yes to the referendum, but it was 6th and 7th Ward residents who killed it.
Yes.
Okay, go
right.
On. Okay,
now, people will say now you can, and we've talked to a lot of people that were involved in the referendum, and they'll blame, there's different reasons why they say it failed. One is they'll say, oh, well, all the black people weren't united. And it's like, yeah, that's a good point. However, 67% of the people said yes. So even if you had 100% voter turnout, which is never going to happen, right. I don't think that percentage would drop from 67 to be less than 50. That's just, I just don't see that, but maybe so. So there was definitely support for it. But again, if you look at the demographics of the 6th and 7th wards, there's very, very little representation in those areas. Right. And so that's why we wanted the STEM focus, is to allow these parents to feel like, yeah, you know what, if you send this kid to the 5th ward school that focuses on STEM, it's just as good as Willard, it's just as good as Lincolnwood, it's just as good as Kingsley, it's just as good as Orrington, to allow them to feel like, hey, you know what, and if I'm really after diversity and I want my kids to get diversity, then send them to the school, to this great school. So in terms of STEM, why STEM? One is there's a lot of employment opportunities in that field. There's a shortfall in performance. U.S. kids test scores are lower in math and science versus the rest of the world. And then the application diversity. So STEM, no matter if you decide to go to college or not go to college, or if you pursue a STEM career or don't pursue a STEM career, it's a good foundation for learning. It gets kids excited about, learning and exploring things. So you don't necessarily have to pursue a STEM career to benefit from a STEM-focused school. Jumping to page 12. So another key component of the school vision is that it's a community school. We think that this example, so the circles, I'll just kind of explain what they are. So the purple circle in the middle represents the STEM school. The circles on the outside represent different nonprofits that could potentially provide wraparound services for the kids and families, right? So this is an example of a model that we think could work at Foster. So you would have the STEM school in Foster. You would have Northwestern, which already has a presence in the Foster building with a lot of STEM programming. You have Infant Welfare Society, you have CETA, you have Family Focus, you have the YMCA, and District 65 has programming. We think that this type of model could work in the Foster building to provide wraparound services for the kids and families. So that's a key element of the vision. Page 13, why the Central Core, why the 5th Ward? A lot of people are surprised at the diversity. A lot of people think of the 5th Ward as being, mostly black, which it is. Still probably shrinking over the years, but it still has the highest concentration versus any of the wards across Evanston. So according to the 2010 Census Bureau, blacks made up 41.5%, Hispanic Latino 14.4%, and whites added 35.3%. The belief is that trend-wise, the African-American black population percent will go down. Yeah. However, the Hispanic Latinx population will increase. Right. But again, even despite that trend, the percentage of blacks in the 5th Ward will likely still be the highest of any of the wards across Evanston. The 5th Ward has a ward with the most amount of kids.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Yeah, because you don't see it because they're fragmented, because they go to, a bunch of schools, and if you include, King Arts, and if you include Betsy Rhodes, you have a scatter of kids in there. But the other thing is there aren't any private school options. So it's like there's Kingsway, which is in Foster, but their classes are, I mean, it's tiny. It's tiny. Right. But there's no Catholic school. There's nothing else in there for kids to, for families to send their kids to. Right. It's centrally located, which is an attraction, and then they've gone 50 years without a school. In terms of options, page 14, logically, we think Foster makes the most sense, but we are open to any location. So the location is less important at this point. What we feel is important right now is spending more time focusing on educating people on the situation. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we're also trying to be tighter on is we want District 65 in the city to be held accountable and really understand that there's a desire for a Fifth Ward school. So we want them to feel the pressure of this vision, of this pursuit of a STEM-focused school. Now, it may come to a time where, they hear the pressure and they actually do something. Because right now, it's unclear that they have a plan to deliver a school for the Fifth Ward. When we met with them, they said in order to open a Fifth Ward school, they said they need to close 1 or 2 schools. They need a referendum to raise capital for the new school. They said they need to redistrict all the schools. They said the best thing they could do is to put it on the list of things to consider for 2025. So it's not built into their strat plan right now.
And that was, are you saying, was this you spoke to the city or to District 65 or both?
District 65. District 65.
Okay, so District 65 said you'd have to have a referendum to raise money. Why would you have to redistrict?
To balance out the classrooms.
And then what were the other things?
So they close 1 or 2 schools.
And why would you have to do that?
To free up operating money for the teachers and principals. So if you close down 1 school, you could, in theory, move all the teachers and principals to the Fifth Ward school. Okay. Now, the reason why I say 1 or 2 schools is actually, this is the other thing that's kind of shady about this whole thing. Even if you don't open a Fifth Ward school, they are talking about the need for closing 1 or 2 schools in the future or doing another operating referendum. So they just did a referendum in 2017, if you remember, for $14 million.
Right.
They're saying now that money's going to run out in a few years. I think they've said now like 2 or 3 years, and they're going to need another tax referendum for the operating costs. So the choice will be close 1 or 2 schools or do another referendum. Again, this is, not putting any consideration to a Fifth Ward school. This is just keeping all the schools as is and just going, along, the way. So there's, yeah.
I just got to ask you this. So if they closed 1 or 2 schools and said, there's no money for a Fifth Ward school, where would all the kids go from the schools that were closed?
Right. So they would assign them to other schools. So the 2 candidates that have been talked about as to be closed, but I think there'll be a political, I don't know, we'll see, but there's a lot of politics. There's politics everywhere. I'm starting to realize that. But Betsy Rhodes was a candidate, so they're under-enrolled. I don't know if you heard about this. The other thing that's going on, there's a lot of frustration within the Latinx Hispanic community because the focus of TWE, the priority was for
the white
kids that are, to learn Spanish. And then the school board members have said it. I didn't realize what it meant. He said the priority is learning Spanish. If you already know Spanish, you don't want that to be the priority. You prefer the priority to be English, right? So you move here, you want to go to school, and you want your kids to learn English. And that's not happening until the later grades. So in kindergarten, I think you might already know this, but in kindergarten, 90% of the instruction is in Spanish, and 10% is in English. And then in first grade, it's 80% Spanish, 20% 20% English. So you're not really learning any English until the later grades. So they're like not learning anything. And test score wise, they do I mean, it's horrible. Right. They actually have data showing that the kids underperform on the test. And then we ask, okay, well, after the 5th grade, when it's, more balanced, what the test scores look like. And it's like, well, we don't have that data. It's like, well, then what were you trying to sell people on? So you're right. It's mostly for the non-Hispanic, non-Latinx community.
So they would close Bessie Rhodes, and what was the other school they would consider closing?
Orrington. Yeah, so that's a smaller school. A lot of the families that live in the neighborhood, they send them to private schools. So a lot of the kids are transplants is what I've heard. I don't have the data, and I haven't seen the data, but that was kind of a rumor that was put out there.
And so would it cause overcrowding in any of the other schools, or is that not an issue?
Well, they would solve it by redistricting or allowing more permissive transfers.
Got it, okay.
And they would have to, assign people to say, hey, you know what, we'll allow you to transfer, but to do that could potentially mean like busing for kids. So it's a big mess. I mean, to take on, that task of closing 1 or 2 schools, redistricting, doing a operating referendum is a task for the ages.
And still not adding a 5th ward school.
Right, and that's not even adding a 5th ward school.
Yeah. Okay.
So you add a 5th ward school to it, now it's really starting to, become a tall order.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so go on.
So one of the things, I'll jump to page 15 and I'll tell you kind of some of the thoughts that we've been dealing with. I'll just say that. So we also felt like for this vision is that we needed to have a partnership with Northwestern. We really felt like we needed to show parents that, hey, you know what, this is going to be a very good school. So we talked to Northwestern back in September. We met with Dean Figlio, Nicole Pinker, and Amy Pratt. I don't know if you know any of those names.
No, I don't.
Okay, and so one of the professors at Northwestern was one of, I guess, kind of a founding member of the next generation of science standards. So it's a new way of delivering science. And it's research-based, and they prove that the kids that go through that type of curriculum, their outcomes in science are superior versus the other ways that science is taught today.
Okay.
And so we talked to them about, hey, you know what, how about you have this professor write the curriculum for this entire STEM school? Because it's being piloted in some schools across the U.S., and it's been adopted by some states, but it hasn't been adopted by Illinois. And I don't know if District 65 has any teachers, using this type of curriculum. So we talked to Northwestern about doing the curriculum. We talked about them doing studies to prove out that the kids that would go to this newly created school, their outcomes would be better than continue to go to their current school. So we just wanted to have the data to prove that out so that when we're communicating, hey, we're doing this school and it's going to lead to better outcomes, we have the data.
Right.
So that's what we talked about with Northwestern. We said, hey, we want you to partner with District 65. We want District 65 to operate the school, hire the teachers or those students, do what they normally do. And then we would have a Fifth Ward School Governance Council. So think of like a PTA on steroids, right? With, this extra power and clout. So they would be in charge of community outreach. They would be in charge. They would have a role in hiring the principal. They would be involved in the curriculum development on the social emotional piece of it. That's kind of the vision of what that school governance council will look like.
And
so
is that separate to? So you're saying District 65. And Northwestern would oversee sort of the curriculum aspect, and District 65 would do all the operational stuff. And then would the District 65 school board oversee the Fifth Ward school also?
Yeah, that was the vision, yes.
Okay.
Now,
So
the
it would be a
Fifth
public
Ward
school.
school government,
It would be a District 65 school.
yeah, that was the initial vision.
Okay, good.
I'll
Okay.
tell you, thoughts. That was the initial vision. The Fifth Ward Governance Council, the only difference about this group is that they would actually have some teeth in terms of playing a role in hiring a principal and have some involvement in the curriculum design.
Okay.
So that would be kind of an ask, and they might shoot it down. You know, it was like, hey, this is what we'd like it to look like, but you guys might think, you know, hey, we got it covered. We have enough expertise in how to handle it. So kind of back off.
Wait, we being District 65.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay,
right.
go on.
You just say this is our partnership vision.
Okay.
Okay. So Northwestern's response was like, yes, that's great. This is what we do. We partner with District 65 on other projects and other initiatives. We're focused on, you know, curriculum and research, and this, you know, we don't want to run a school, so this is great. And so I said, well, we need your help to convince District 65 to open a Fifth Ward school. We need some type of leverage. And they said, well, no, we can't, you know, convince District 65 to open a school, but we can be a part of the conversation. And I said, okay, fine. So we went to District 65, and we had a meeting with them, sharing with them this vision, and then all the things that I just talked about as far as their response being, you know, we need to close one or two schools, we need a referendum, we need to redistrict. That was their response.
And when you met with them, who did you meet with, the board or the Gorin, or who did you have the meeting with?
So Gorin and SUNY Carson, the school board president.
Got it.
Yeah. And so at that moment, I actually felt like the only way to pull off the school in its lifetime was to pursue an independent school.
Okay.
Because an independent school, you can do it faster, you can do it cheaper, you don't need a referendum. But it's very difficult. Like when you mention the word independent, doesn't have such a negative connotation as charter school.
Correct.
When you say charter around here, it just gets people worked up.
Right.
They don't even understand how it's funded. They don't have the details of, you know, performance or achievement. They don't have any of that. They just know charter school is bad. Charter equals bad. And so what we've tried to do is not necessarily, you know, pigeonhole ourselves and say, hey, we're only going to pursue a charter school or an independent or a private school. We don't want to pigeonhole ourselves and say that. But right now, the focus is on trying to build support for a school in the Fifth Ward, period. Forget about focusing on the type of school or getting back and forth on anything. Hey, do you support, do you believe that it's a worthwhile endeavor to open a Fifth Ward school? And oh, by the way, that would potentially mean that the school district would need to shut down one or two schools. Are you still in? And then, you know, keep trying to build momentum that way. Because no matter what way you go after it, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. It's going to be a cost. It'll be a cost, you know, either by shutting down the school or a referendum. Now, one of the things I believe that the school district isn't being transparent about is if you shut down one or two schools, you really don't need another operating referendum. You don't need both. You have to do one or the other. Now, what they'll say about the operating referendum is what they did before. They say, hey, if we don't pass this referendum, then bad things will happen. We're going to take away your arts classes.
Correct.
And this time around, they might say, we're going to take away art, and we're going to take away two schools. And then everybody will be the fear of God will be in people, and they'll say, oh, let's do another tax referendum because we don't want to close any school.
Right.
So that'll be what they're going to have to figure out.
Won't people... and I probably ask you some stupid questions because I know a lot, but I know a fair amount, but I don't know a ton. So in terms of a referendum, are you saying that they're saying we need... is an operating referendum a referendum tied to some kind of tax, some kind of money increase?
Right.
That's different than a regular referendum like the referendum for Harley Clark.
Right. Well, right. That's different. Right. So the referendum for Harley Clark was just about, hey, I forgot how they worded it, but it wasn't to raise any money.
Correct.
There was no implications to raising property tax.
So right. So if there was a 2017 referendum to increase property taxes to fund the schools, and you're saying they are saying, regardless of what happens with the Fifth Ward school, they're going to probably need another referendum to raise more money or close 2 schools.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, go on. I just lost my train of thought about that. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So my belief is, for the operating cost of it for the Fifth Ward school, you're going to have to close 1 or 2 schools or do a tax referendum. What I don't want to happen is them to bundle the need for sustaining all the schools and the Fifth Ward school. So I don't want them to say, hey, we need to raise money to keep all the schools open and for a Fifth Ward school, because that could be a much bigger price tag versus just saying, hey, we just need money for the Fifth Ward school only.
Correct.
Right.
Because now let me just think this through to make sure that I've got my thinking right. So if they say we need another tax referendum, okay, we did one in 2017, but here we are 3 years later, we're doing another one because we need more money for all our current schools, plus we now want to open a Fifth Ward school. People are going to say, hell no, we're pissed enough that we have to raise more money again for all the current schools. We're certainly not, we've got enough schools, we don't need a Fifth Ward school.
Right.
Got it.
That's what I believe would be what would happen. And that scenario is very similar to the approach they took from the 2012 referendum. So the 2012 referendum, I don't know how close you were to it. So it was $45 million
I wasn't
referendum.
At all, and I'd love to know what happened in that.
Yeah, so the $45 million referendum, $20 million, it was a capital referendum. So $20 million was for the school, for the Fifth Ward state-of-the-art school. It was going to be built from scratch. $25 million was for capital for all the schools across the district. So they bundled the two together to make it $45 million. And so what ended up happening is the price tag was high, and once the referendum failed, all the schools that needed capital, they were able to raise the money through their local PTAs. So the PTAs basically covered everything that was needed. So it was an inequity thing, right?
Totally.
So they bundled something together that didn't need to be bundled in the first place. But they probably did it because they thought they would get more support across Evanston if they bundled it together.
And who brought forward the referendum? I mean, I think Summers.
So Hardy Murphy was. Oh yeah, Summers was on the school board. I know Keith Terry was the school board president, but I think he might have stepped down by the time it made it officially on the ballot. But Hardy Murphy was the superintendent at that time.
Okay, and so he was supportive of a Fifth Ward school.
Yes, he was supportive of it, and obviously Jerome. Now, the other thing is the school board was split on the support, which is weird. Usually school boards, if you're going to do a tax referendum for a school district, everyone is united in the belief that we need the money. But for this 2012,
Who was on the school board back then? Who said yes and who said no?
Jerome Summers was on the school board, was the leading voice that I always read about in the newspaper articles. I'm not sure who the other 6 school board members were.
Okay. I was just curious.
Back then, yeah. But I do know for sure Jerome Summers was on the school board, and Hardy Murphy was the school board, was the superintendent.
Okay.
And I've actually had conversations with him on this topic as well a few times. So he kind of gives me his points of view of things. So it was bundled together. The other thing is it was communicated that this Fifth Ward school would be a neighborhood school, that it would only be for Fifth Ward families. What we have as far as this vision, and I believe that this is the best route, is that it has to be a magnet school that allows families that live outside the Fifth Ward an opportunity to go there.
And why?
So you can live in downtown Evanston. Yeah, go ahead.
And why do you think that?
Because the referendum one of the arguments people said is like, hey, I don't want to raise my taxes when there's nothing in it for me.
Huh.
There's, my kids can't go there if I want to send them, or my grandkids or whoever. They didn't see it as something that was going to benefit all of Evanston. It was, this is a school for them.
Huh.
And so what we want to do, this is a marketing messaging thing, is like we want to be able to say, hey, you know what, this school, yes, it's intended to be in the Fifth Ward, for mostly majority, Fifth Ward families. Anyone in the Fifth Ward that wants to go to school can go. We want to guarantee spots for them. However, it's going to be open lottery for everyone else, which is exactly what King Arts Lab and Betsy Rhodes does. They set aside a certain percent and say, hey, you know what, if you live in the Fifth Ward, we're going to guarantee you slots all the way up to 25%.
Okay.
And then it's open to everyone else. So we want the same type of attendance structure for this school at King Arts Lab.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
And so again, it's this belief that, okay, we need to make it so that it's appealing to people outside the Fifth Ward.
Right. Okay.
And again, some people argue and say, it needs to be neighborhood school. It's like, yeah, I hear you, but we're trying to win. We're trying to win this thing. We're trying to be successful this time around. Because there's a lot of people that are frustrated. They just felt like, you know what, we've tried over and over and over again to bring a school, and we failed every single time. So now we're trying to come up with an approach that we think is a winning formula and doing things differently than what's been tried in the past.
And let me just ask something. Do you live in the Fifth Ward?
So I don't even live in the Fifth Ward.
Okay. I just suddenly wondered.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So one of the things that, and a couple of observations to your question. One is, I don't live in the Fifth Ward, but I'm bothered by the injustice, right? But number two, what I'm finding too is that when we're going out in the community and talking about this, it's easier politically to deliver a message by an independent voice because no one is pissed at my mom and my dad.
Yeah.
No one has any bad blood against me for something I did on the playground in third grade. I mean, every person that I talk to is like, I think somebody is the perfect, profile of people to endorse this thing. And then when I mention somebody's name, it's like, I don't like that guy because, he didn't do this or didn't support this. Or I don't like this woman because she said something bad. And it's like, oh my gosh, does anyone, respect anybody? Is there anyone that's, the perfect, endorser of this thing? So that's what I'm dealing with. Now, I have heard, why is Henry, out here doing this thing, and he's not even from here. It's like, guys, it should not freaking matter. We're all trying to accomplish the same thing, and let's just get it done.
Right.
So, yeah, I have heard, comments made around that.
So can I interrupt you for one more second? So who else other than you, who else is the core of this project? Is Bobby part of it?
Yeah, so Bobby initially started off doing it, and then we ended up just kind of going down a different path.
Right.
And I just told him, hey, we'll meet back in the middle. It's like, we want the same thing. We're going to keep going down this path of, our position is more about by any means necessary, we want a school.
Right.
And so we're open to it. So a lot of people are pissed at that we have that approach. It's like, no, if District 5 says no, we're going to go down another path. But we're not going to sit here on our laurels and just say, you know what, fine, let's just go another 50 years without school. We're like, no, by any means necessary, we plan to deliver a school.
So wait, so Bobby is now no longer involved?
Not so much for them, but he's supportive. So he'll be, I think he sponsored the canvassing event coming up on Saturday. His group is, going to help, spread the word. Again, the focus right now is more about educating and making people aware of the situation and trying to get support for a Fifth Ward school. Right. It's not about a independent school or anything like that. It's just like, hey, let's just focus on the basics of the why. Do you understand that? Do you understand District 55 promised to deliver a school? Do you think they should deliver a school? focus on that piece of it.
Okay, so who else is
And
with
that's-
you? Who else is with
Yeah, so
you?
there's 15. Yeah, so we have 15 parents that are part of the core team. So actually, I don't know if you saw the Evanston Live TV interview. So 7 of the parents actually did interviews with Malika
Okay.
about a month ago, and so those are posted on Facebook. So you can actually see their names and faces on those interviews. So there's 7 that were interviewed, and then we have others that are on the team that weren't necessarily being interviewed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
So yeah, we got 15, and then yeah, I'll just say that. Now.
And any
Well,
other,
yeah,
are there any
sure.
other like
Yeah.
community leaders sort of who are supportive, like
Yeah.
is Robin Simmons?
Yeah, so right. So we've talked to almost 80 people across Evanston about this. And then some people are, definitely supportive no matter what. Some people are just like, we hear you, but, it's fine the way it is. So we've met with, so obviously Robin is supportive behind this. Dolores Holmes is supportive behind this. Becky Powell, Keith Cherry, Jerome Summers. We've actually talked to Steve Haggerty. Steve Haggerty's kids don't even
I
go
know.
to 55 school, so he really doesn't even care what type of school this thing is. He gave his point of view about, hey, we have to be careful because a lot of families move to Evanston. They want the diversity, so your school could potentially take away the diversity. So that's one of the reasons why we focus on it being a school that's open to everyone. So if you're serious about diversity, you can send your kids here if you're serious about it. We've talked to Bennett Johnson. We've talked to school board member Sudi. We talked to Anya. We've talked to Sergio. We've talked to Cicely Fleming. We talked to Robin Gable with State Rep Robin Gable, U.S. Rep Jan Schakowsky. Talked to a few professors at Northwestern. I don't know if you know Dr. Carol Lee.
No.
Dr. Ava Greenwell, people within District 5, so Latasha Green, Kirby Callum, who went down, Dr. Neighbors, Monique Parsons, Monique Jones, Chuck Lewis, Keith Robinson over at ETHS, Oliver Ruff. I'm just going through the names. Yeah, this was Tamara Stewart Hadaway, who
Yeah.
runs the Kingsway School at Foster. Yep. So she's actually was a really good meeting with her. She actually was supportive of having a school along with her school. She said in New York, you'll find a lot of buildings that will have multiple schools in them.
Right.
So that was a cool conversation. Liz Tisdale, Steve Vick, Alicia Wartowski, who runs District 5 Foundation, Misty Wittenberg, Roger Williams, who runs Opal, Martha Burns, Terry Shepard, who was a school board member in the
Who?
past.
Terry Shepherd.
Terry Shepard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Karen Kring. Yeah. So I think I got kind of the major players. Kevin
And are
Brown.
these people all
Yeah.
who are saying that they support it, or these are just people you've talked to?
So I would split up the support in 3 different buckets. There's people that are completely against it, and there's very few people that are against the Fifth Ward School. So one of the individuals is Rose Johnson. She actually believes that the busing situation is a good thing.
Wait, who is that?
Rose Johnson. So she runs the Foster Center Our Place. So she's a chairperson for that group.
Oh, Rose
That's
Rose
by-
Johnson.
Yeah,
Oh wow, she's completely against. Okay.
yeah. And I don't know if she's changed her tune after pressure from people, but that's what she's been saying. So there's that group. Then the second group of people, I would say, are people that say, yes, supportive of a Fifth Ward school as long as it's a District 65 school. So if you're a school board member, if you work for the district, if you're a superintendent, and or a teacher, you're 100%, it has to be District 5 school.
Okay.
Okay, so there's that camp. And then you have a third group of people that are like, yeah, I support a fifth ward school. And oh, by the way, I support any type of school. Any school. By any means necessary, I want a school here. And so that's kind of how I would say that the spectrum is as far as support. And so I can just, go down the list and tell you who's where based off of conversations that I've had with different people.
Yeah, I'm curious.
So, for instance, so Becky Powell, any means necessary. Alderman Simmons, any means necessary. Dolores Holmes, by any means necessary. I mean, she's like, hey, I've been in the community for 70 years and trying to bring a school.
Right.
I'm tired of it. Like, I'm just tired. I want a freaking school.
Right.
You have, him. You have Jerome Summers. You have, some professors at Northwestern. They get it. You have State Representative Robin Gable was interesting. She said, hey, I get it. I support why you want to go to independent school. I can't publicly say it because I want to hear what the unions have to say. I'm like, okay, fine.
Right.
We know where that's going to go. And then you have, who else would say, by any means, Dr. Michael Neighbors.
He's any means necessary.
Neighbors, yeah.
Yeah. And what about Fleming?
Who?
Cicely Fleming.
Yeah, she was in the top. So I will say that you didn't hear this from me. She's by any means necessary, but she's not going to be out front on it. So I'm not counting on her to be, leading it. But she gets it, and that's all I need at this point. I just need people not to sabotage it.
Right.
I need people to say, you know what, I get it. I prefer, something else. But.
And what about Oliver? What about Oliver Ruff and Roger Williams?
Yeah, by any means necessary. And Oliver Ruff, I've heard that he'll play both sides. I mean, he's been to some of our meetings and he gets it. I don't know where he is, but he would never shoot it down publicly.
Right.
But he gets it and he supports it.
So interesting. So do you have other things to tell me? Because I've got a bunch of questions just so that I understand it all, but I don't want to interrupt you anymore.
Yeah. What did you just say before you said?
I said, are there other things in your sort of presentation that you can finish?
Yeah, no. So the only other thing that I'll say that I don't talk about in this deck in writing is the process for a charter school, because a lot of people don't understand how that works. So what you have to do is you have to put together a proposal. You pick, who's going to manage it. Usually it's, somebody that has experience running schools. We want somebody that, knows how to teach black and brown kids. We want to see, the outcomes of those schools, that sort of thing. And then you submit the plan to the school board. So the school board reviews the plan. They, have to meet the criteria for the state, all these things. And then they have to have a town hall meeting to hear public comment. And then they vote. So they have 75 days to respond. If the school board says no, you actually can appeal to the state of Illinois, Department of Education, and, you make your case around, hey, this is inequity, we've been trying to fix it, we've tried everything under the sun, and they keep saying no to it. And, disproportionately impacting, disenfranchised, races or, populations, whatever case you make. And then they can overturn what the school board said, and then you have a school. The way the funding works is that District 55 loses out on the property taxes because the property taxes follow the children. So if Henry Wilkins decides to send his daughter to the school, then there's a certain dollar amount that's attached to her head count that goes to the charter school to help run the school.
So that's taken from D65.
Right.
Okay.
And it's really, what's interesting is the same way, even if you open a fifth ward school. So if you open a fifth ward school, you're taking away money from one, it's expanding the amount of cost, and it's taking away, what they make the case is, it's taking away money from other resources within the pool of expenses.
Okay.
But again, charter is no charge. It's like, oh, it's like that. So that's the process. We haven't decided to go any route at all. Even if you go private school, you don't necessarily need a school board approval. What happens is you get the money follows the kids for the state and the federal taxes, but for the property taxes, District 65 doesn't get impacted at all. They get to keep 100% of the money that they get through property taxes, no matter if the enrollment drops or increases, which I just found out like a few weeks ago. So the school board and the school district, they don't throw up a big stink if you say, hey, I want to open up a Catholic school, for instance, a Roycemore or a Carroll Valley, for instance. They don't throw up a big stink.
Because they don't lose any money.
Correct.
Got it. And so is a private school, so right now you're saying by any means necessary, you may have a personal preference, but right now you would say it could be private, it could be part of District 65, it could be a charter, it could be any of those.
A homeschool, right? It could be homeschool. It could be anything, right?
Okay. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, so that's kind of the, what's out there as far as like things I consider. I mean, we just had a meeting with District 202, ETHS, and we talked about, hey, can this school be kind of a big brother, big sister under the District 202 umbrella? I don't know what that looks like. And then as we talked about it more, it was like, that could be a lot of red tape to have District 202, have another elementary school under their umbrella.
Right. I mean, D65 is not under D202's umbrella.
Correct.
Right.
So we're saying, hey, let's have this new school be under the 202 umbrella.
Right. Okay.
But we think that's a tall order because, one, District 65 might get tipped that, they feel like they can handle another school. I don't know. But
right.
The belief is that it could cause tension between the two school districts.
And okay, so can I ask you a bunch of questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so my first question is quite a minor question compared to everything else. When what made you guys decide on STEM and not like STEAM, with arts as well?
Yeah, so one of the things we thought that was necessary is to show that this school was unique in its offering across District 65. So District 65 offers an art school, so King Arts Lab, we thought kind of owned the A space, the art space. And so we wanted to just say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we have arts, but this school, STEM, doesn't have, we're not competing or we're not overlapping. This is a new school.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons. The second thing is money. So all the marketing material we kind of already wrote down on, and it's about $1,500 of stuff that we had to replace, and we're not rolling in money, so
right.
Now we can just scrap everything and redo it all. So that was kind of the thought. But we actually have been communicating, and we are totally open to arts being a component of the curriculum.
Right.
And we don't want people to feel like, hey, you know what, be turned off because it doesn't have A in the name. It's like, no, we want it all.
Right.
We actually think arts actually would be a good thing because Foster has a theater in that building.
Right.
So,
right.
It would work perfectly. But again, it was more about positioning and saying, hey, we're different than all the others.
Got it. Okay.
One of the key... Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The other thing I'll say is one of the thoughts that we had about addressing some of the people's comments around it is saying that we call ourselves STEM Plus, and you can fill in the blank. Because one of the things we said is, like, we thought it was important that that a key component was having culturally responsive pedagogy, which is a new way of saying, having teachers that know how to teach diverse kids.
Right.
So ACC is a culturally responsive pedagogy, but ACC has a bad rep more, I think, because of the name, African American curriculum,
Right.
African American Center curriculum. So it's like, no. We aren't asking for that. We want this to be a culture responsive pedagogy, and which is more general and can cover any type of, ethnicity or race.
Got it. And so explain to me again, if whatever this school is, because will it make a difference if it's a District 65 school or a charter school or an independent school or whatever the other choices are? Which kids will be able to enroll? I know you told me before, but it was like a certain percentage from the Fifth Ward and then lottery. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so what they do it's lottery for both. So what I'll talk more about what King Arts does. So King Arts is 100% lottery. But what they do is they set aside a certain percent that guarantees Fifth Ward residents. So 25% of the families that live in the Fifth Ward are guaranteed to go to that school.
Okay.
And then 75% is open to everyone. What we would want for this school is to make that percentage higher than 25 to basically guarantee, any person that lives in the Fifth Ward can go to the school. And so this gets into the weeds of the plan, but it'd be like, hey, you know what? We think, 60% of the families would want to go to the school, so we're going to make that percent 60%, and 40% is open to everyone else.
Got it. Okay. And then, and whatever in your mind, whatever format this school takes, it would be free. It would not, or no, it could be a private school, and then people would pay tuition.
Right. So if it's a tuition based, so the demographics is that we don't believe that people that live in a majority
right.
that live in a Fifth Ward could afford a private school. So when we met with Liz Tisdale, I was so upset that she even offered this idea. She's like, why don't you make it a private school and have it Roycemore be a branch? And like, Roycemore is $20,000. There's no way a person is going to want to pay $20,000 for a school in the Fifth Ward. But what you could do is say, hey, you know what? We're gonna, if you can afford to pay, we'll charge you the full tuition amount, but we'll have scholarships. We'll raise so much money that if you're a Fifth Ward resident, we'll cover 100% of your tuition. So it really is a free school. Now my high school did this because I went to a school private school at a Catholic school in Toledo, and what they offered was they had 100% like free ride scholarships for certain. I'd say we had like maybe 10% of the population. They covered 100% of the tuition. So it could be something like that. But again, it's an idea. I'm not going to shoot down anything, but it's an idea. You would need to raise money to make sure that you are able to maximize on the number of Fifth Ward families to go to the school.
Right. So it's not the ideal. A private school is not the ideal.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so, and maybe you answered this question, and I have to think about it again. But just so you know, I forgot to tell you at the beginning, I'm recording this on another phone so I can listen back to it. I hope that's okay.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can. Sure. I won't
say anything. No.
And it's purely for me. It will not go anywhere. Okay. It's just so I can listen to it again. I forgot to tell you that part.
Yeah. Okay.
So would it be? So a charter school, how would that be funded? That would be property taxes.
How would a charter school be funded?
Yeah.
So it would. So the money that the school district 65 receives through property taxes would be redirected.
Right. Okay.
To the charter school manager, basically.
Okay.
And then the charter school manager has to figure out how they're going to, how they're going to spend their money. So, one of the things that makes charter schools cheaper to run is they hire younger teachers. So teachers that are more tenured cost more.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So you get them straight out of college or with, fewer years of experience than than the average. I'll just say that.
And would your school, like as part of its cultural competency, like be committed to, because this is a huge issue with D65, is the lack of black and brown teachers. So would that be one of your key
pillars? Yeah. So what we said actually is that we want culturally competent teachers. So we don't necessarily care if you're Asian or Hispanic. We don't care about any of that. We just want to make sure you know how to teach, that you're culturally competent to cover everyone.
Okay. And then, and I know that like one of the big things, I know very little about charter schools, but I do know that they are very controversial. And that a lot of people, immediately, just like you said, you just shut down. So is there an issue, and maybe you've answered this, so I'm just going to ask it again, but is there a concern about like siphoning off more privileged kids from District 65 whose parents are sort of more involved and can make the decision to send their kids to you? Or like, how would you decide which kids get to come to the school? I mean, obviously you would do a lot of pushing and publicity and recruiting and whatever from the Fifth Ward. And then, so I guess that doesn't matter. I guess as long as you're really focusing on Fifth Ward kids, because that's your main goal, then whoever else wants to come, you don't really care if they're well off or lower income or whatever. As long as your school is meeting the needs of the Fifth Ward kids, which is really your goal.
Right, exactly right.
Got it, okay. And then, and if it is a charter school, it is overseen by the District 65 school board.
I know it's overseen by the state of Illinois, Department of Education.
But not Evanston's.
But District 65. Now, what I do know is what I've been told is that you can make arrangements where, you're sharing in some of the services that are offered. So, for instance, like if you have a special needs kid, they can go to, I think Park is the special ed school.
Right.
So they can go to that school, right, for part of the day or whatever.
Right. Oh, that was my other question. Would it be like sort of inclusive in terms of learning disabilities and physical disabilities and all that?
Absolutely. Right. Exactly. So you have that. You could share in the ESL, that support. You can share, staff with District 65 for that as well. So, yeah.
And do you have a vision of like how big it would be?
So we said we felt like kindergarten through fifth grade was kind of the perfect range. We wanted to offer so that families can send their kids there, and then very easily when they graduate just go on to junior high, versus like having a K through third grade. The other thing is we got advice that we felt like the junior high, they have a very strong like sport, set up, that we said, hey, you know what? Let the junior high kind of own that space, and we'll just focus on K to 5. So K to 5 was a thought, and then probably in the beginning, it might just be one class per grade.
Got it.
So call it 15, 20 kids from kindergarten through fifth grade. But if the interest is so strong, then obviously you have two grade per 2 classes per grade. One thing about foster though that needs to be figured out is the state. So this vision is for the nonprofits to stay in the building, so not kick anyone out. And so we want to make sure that we're able to do that. So it might be the case that some of the nonprofits might have to move to like maybe shared spaces.
Right.
The other thing is the mayor's office supposedly approved that they could add 2 floors up without disrupting the landmark status.
Interesting.
So yeah. So that, obviously it would take longer to add two floors. But that is a potential.
And would you actually start with one class per grade, or would you just start with a kindergarten class and then each year add a grade?
So this would probably be more into the whoever runs the school to answer, because my thinking, what I've heard is that it financially is difficult to pull off one grade, that you need at least 3 grades in the very beginning, because you have a principal for one grade. That's expensive versus if you have one principal for 3 grades, or accounts, or whatever it is, you're sharing in the expenses. So financially, I think the model works better if you have a minimum of 3 grades. But you're right. I mean, you could start off even small and have a tighter grade range and then expand up. But we felt like K-5 was easier for parents to feel comfortable sending their kids, because if you stop at 3rd grade, then after 3rd grade, then they have to go to their, you're stuck, right?
Yeah. And then, what about, just say, and these are all the things that I was just thinking before you called, so that's why I'm just I've just typed them out, that's why I'm just going down my list. So what would happen if, say you have the school in the 5th ward and, all the white Northwest Evanston and people in the 7th ward are like, oh, hell no, my kid's not going there, and it's all African American and Latinx. Would that be okay?
Well, the problem is the numbers wouldn't support it, would never happen because of the demographics, right? Because it's a pretty large percent of, the 5th ward is made up of a pretty large percent of whites, and that I think it's like 38%. I want to say, hold on, 2010. I want to say it's like 38%.
Oh, so even
probably growing.
Yeah. So I mean, even if only people in the 5th ward, including white people, were interested in the school, could it sustain itself as only a 5th ward school, or are you saying no, it could not? It needs to bring in people from everywhere.
No, you could probably pull it off. Like the number, because it has it's the ward with the largest amount of kids.
Right.
Yeah, so it could. I mean, we think that, there's a high likelihood. The other thing, too, is the 2nd ward doesn't have a neighborhood school.
Right.
Which is right next door.
Right.
So you're pulling from that group. Now, they don't have as many kids, but that is another ward that you'd be pulling from.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and then... and it would not be selective in any way. Like you wouldn't have to take a test to get in or anything like that.
Right. Open, yeah, for sure. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
And, wow, those are all my questions. It's so interesting. Like, I mean, I've been aware of this for like so long, but I mean, it's just interesting to really, think it through with you and listen to it all. I mean, so right now your goal is simply encourage people to support a 5th ward school, or rather to educate people about the need for a 5th ward school, the historic need from a perspective of justice. Right.
And even the educating part is different. So our team members are, it's a diverse team. So we have, a couple parents from Willard and Lincolnwood.
Oh, interesting.
And so they feed the 5th ward kids feed into those schools.
Right.
So what we said is like, hey, we don't even want to talk about a school with both communities. We just want you to be educated on like what's happening, because they don't even know how this diversity is happening.
Totally.
All they see is like, all the kids are getting on the, moving to the front of the school to get on the bus to go back home.
Yep.
And all the other kids are going in the back playing with their friends on the playground.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they don't live in the neighborhood.
Right.
So they don't even know, like,
there are so many things that, when in your deck you said, what things that District 65 has done, like things like after school programs and things like that. But it's so hard when you live in the 5th ward to stay for after school programs, and then there's not a bus to come back with, and You know, like I remember once there was a conversation on a Facebook page where, you know, every year at Haven, which is not an elementary school, but it's the middle school, every year they have this play called Haven Help Us, and they always say, you know, everybody's invited to it. And then somebody was like, well, how come there are no kids of color in your play? And they're like, we don't know. We try. It's open to everyone. And you want to say, you can't just be open to everyone. Like, you've got to think about why they're not coming.
Right.
So I totally get all this. So, okay. So what are you looking for from me?
So I don't know if it makes sense. So I sometimes I see you promote like different events that are coming up.
Yes.
So for instance, you know, this canvassing thing. I think, you know, sending out a blast that's like, hey, you know, there's an opportunity to, you know, canvass and educate people on, you know, what's happening. So one of the things, for instance, so there's a canvas event that I'm thinking about more specifically that's happening on Saturday. But I don't know if you know, the Mudlark Theater is having a play on in January. And so what we try to do is to reach out to all the PTAs and all the equity groups at the school to say, hey, we need you to help spread the word, and, you know, maybe go attend this play and have a share out session afterwards, or a discussion afterwards on what you learned and what you heard about this play. And we think we can get more supporters that way as well, if they're involved in being educated through theater.
Right. Okay. And one of the things that I'm thinking, and we can talk about it now, my caveat to you is that I am insanely swamped because we're working on this trip to Montgomery, Alabama, this bus trip.
Yeah.
And it is taking up all my time, energy, and anxiety. And so I don't have a huge amount of extra time. In fact, I was about to post at some point, either today or tomorrow, I'm going to post a little thing about how Dear Evanston's going on a little bit of a break until the fall, where I'm not going to be posting a ton of events, but there's still a way for people to post. There's a mechanism by which you can do a visitor's post. And I'm not saying I'm not going to post for you, but I'm just telling you, you can post as a visitor's post on Dear Evanston. And if somehow somebody posts something that doesn't fit the parameters of Dear Evanston, I would just delete it.
Right.
So just know that there is that way. I mean, I just have to, obviously I also think there should be a school in the Fifth Ward. I've always thought there should be a school in the Fifth Ward. I feel like I just have to listen again to our conversation, which I hope came out on the recording, and just like make sure I understand it all. What I might want to do based on this conversation is type out the recording and then kind of create it, and you would be able to look at it, and just because I feel bad I didn't tell you I was recording it, so I feel like I owe you the whatever of if I type it out as a Q&A. And then we could post the Q&A, so that would give people an opportunity to see all the different things that you're thinking and the issue, you know what I mean? But you would be able to say what you were comfortable or not comfortable with. I wouldn't usually do that, but I didn't tell you I was recording, so I feel like you really should be able to see.
Okay.
So what do you think of that idea?
I love it. That'd be great.
Okay. So what I will do for now is I'm going to post a very generic post without like any kind of endorsement from me.
Yep.
And just say, if you're interested in a Fifth Ward school in the Fifth Ward, there's canvassing or whatever. You can even send me language. If you wouldn't mind sending me an email with language about canvassing, I can post that now.
Okay.
And then might take a little while for me to get to the actual interview part. So if you could just be patient about that.
Okay, that works.
Awesome. Well, this is very interesting. I'm so glad you reached out to me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sparing the time.
Oh no, not at all. It was very interesting. Thanks. Good luck with all of this.
Yes, thank you.
All right, but I'll be in touch with you. I'll be in touch with you soon.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Henry.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
No problem. Okay, bye.